See, they gon' call you lonely, they gon' call you strange. But what they don't understand is, solitude ain't weakness, it's the foundation of strength. A woman with no friends don't mean she lost, it means she's learning to win on her own terms. When you step into solitude, something powerful begins to unfold. In a world where most people are constantly surrounded by chatter, distractions, and opinions, choosing to be by yourself can feel unnatural at first. But that stillness you create is where the seeds of vision begin to grow. The reason so many people struggle with clarity is because they are drowning in the noise of others. Every friend has advice, every peer has an opinion, and every voice around you competes for space in your head. When you choose to walk alone, you give yourself the rare opportunity to hear your own inner voice without interruption. That silence becomes fertile ground where your dreams can take root and where your focus sharpens. What starts to happen is that ideas which once seemed blurred begin to reveal themselves with precision. You start noticing your strengths, identifying your weaknesses, and recognizing the steps you need to take. Vision cannot survive in chaos, it demands solitude. By pulling back from the constant presence of others, you place yourself in a position where your future stops being a reflection of everyone's expectations and becomes a product of your own clarity. Imagine a woman with no friends in her corner, no constant group text buzzing with distractions, no endless cycle of small talk. Instead, she sits with her own thoughts. At first, it may feel uncomfortable, but slowly that discomfort transforms into awareness. She begins to realize that solitude is not isolation, it is training. It's like a gym for the mind. Every day she spends in her own company, she builds the muscle of focus. She starts to picture her life not through the lens of what people around her believe she can do, but through the lens of what she knows she is capable of. That vision becomes her compass. While others are wasting time trying to impress their circles, she is quietly mapping her path, setting her goals, and seeing further than anyone else because her mind is free from the clutter. The beauty of solitude is that it forces you to rely on your own inner guidance system. When you can hear yourself clearly, nobody can easily sway you. That type of vision becomes unshakable. Now let's talk about the reality of friends. We grow up believing that more friends equal more love, more support, and more belonging. But life teaches you something different. Not everybody who calls themselves your friend actually wants to see you win. Some clap for you only when you are behind them. Some smile at your struggles because your pain makes their insecurities feel lighter. It's a hard truth, but many so-called friends are really distractions dressed as companionship. When you step back and walk alone, you begin to notice the difference. Solitude has a way of exposing the people who only came around for comfort, convenience, or competition. And once you see that clearly, you cannot unsee it. That is why being alone is often safer than standing in a circle of false supporters. Think about it. How many people have surrounded themselves with friends who, on the surface, seem loyal, but behind the scenes are secretly rooting for their downfall? How many women have confided in friends only to watch their secrets become gossip in another room? It is easy to confuse quantity of friends with quality of love, but the truth is very different. A large circle can be the heaviest chain. The moment you separate yourself, you cut off that chain. By being alone, you take away the stage from those who perform friendship without practicing it. This is not about mistrusting everyone, but about recognizing that solitude allows you to filter out the fake so the real can eventually find its way into your life. The power in walking alone is that you no longer depend on validation from people who never truly supported you in the first place. That type of independence is liberating. It teaches you that peace is more valuable than popularity. It teaches you that one moment of clarity in solitude is more powerful than a lifetime of confusion surrounded by false friends. When a woman learns to stand strong without a crowd behind her, she is not weaker for it, she is wiser. She has chosen growth over gossip, vision over noise, and truth over illusion. That strength becomes the foundation for everything she builds afterward. So when you see a woman with no friends, don't mistake her for someone who is lost or broken. Look closer and you will see someone who has chosen to protect her vision and her energy. She is not lonely, she is building. She is not abandoned, she is evolving. Every step she takes in solitude sharpens her purpose, and every distance she creates from false friends makes her stronger. In the quiet, she is learning to trust herself, and that is the kind of trust that can never be taken away. Your energy is the most valuable currency you will ever own. Money can be spent and earned back, time passes and can never return. But energy is the fuel that decides how far you can go in life. Every conversation you enter, every environment you step into, every person you choose to give attention to either adds to your energy or drains it. Too often, people spend energy recklessly, pouring it into relationships that do not nourish them, conversations that lead nowhere, and habits that keep them stuck. The lesson of solitude is that it forces you to become disciplined about where your energy flows. When you are alone, you begin to notice how much energy you used to waste on pleasing others, explaining yourself, or defending choices that never needed approval in the first place. You realize that not everyone deserves a share of your energy. Just like not everyone has earned access to your bank account, protecting your energy becomes a form of wealth management for the soul. Picture someone who is always surrounded by friends, acquaintances, and social obligations. On the surface, it may look fulfilling, but underneath, their energy is being chipped away in small doses. They are tired not because they are working too hard on their goals, but because they are constantly giving away emotional and mental energy to people who give little in return. It is like pouring water into cups with holes at the bottom. No matter how much you pour, the cups never stay full, and eventually you are left empty. In contrast, solitude teaches you to close those leaks. When you spend time with yourself, you learn to budget your energy the same way a wise investor budgets money. You only invest in what gives you returns. You give energy to activities that push you forward, to people who match your frequency, and to habits that multiply your strength. By guarding your energy, you gain stamina for the long journey, because success is not a sprint, it is a marathon. Energy is also contagious, and the people around you can either fuel your fire or extinguish it. Negative energy is one of the fastest thieves of potential. If you constantly surround yourself with people who complain, doubt, or settle for less, you begin to absorb their mindset without even noticing. The power of solitude is that it shields you from this silent influence. When you are alone, you have the space to cultivate positivity, focus, and resilience without interference. You are not absorbing someone else's fears, you are building your own courage. You are not inheriting someone else's limits, you are defining your own. Protecting your energy in solitude is not selfish, it is survival. It is the recognition that your energy is too valuable to be wasted on people or environments that do not honor it. Silence has its own strength, and learning to embrace it is one of the greatest lessons solitude can teach. Many people mistake being quiet for being weak. They believe the one who talks the most, who brags the loudest, or who argues the hardest is the one in control. But real strength often hides in silence. Silence is not about lacking words, it is about possessing control. When you can sit in silence, you are no longer driven by the need to prove yourself to others. You are not rushing to defend your worth or justify your dreams. Silence becomes your shield and your weapon at the same time. It protects your peace while allowing your actions to speak on your behalf. Think of silence as the space where focus grows. When the noise of the outside world fades, your inner world becomes clearer. In silence, you begin to connect dots that were once scattered. Ideas flow without interruption, creativity rises, and your strategy becomes sharper. The person who can remain quiet while working in the dark often shocks everyone when they step into the light. This is the advantage of silence. It is preparation in disguise. While others are busy announcing their moves before they are ready, silence allows you to build without distraction, to plan without interference, and to arrive without warning. There is immense power in being underestimated because you chose silence over noise. Another overlooked strength of silence is the discipline it teaches. It takes discipline to hold back words when emotions are high, to resist the urge to respond when provoked, to stay focused when surrounded by distractions. This type of silence is not weakness, it is mastery. It is the ability to control yourself when others cannot. It is the refusal to let outside chaos dictate your inner state. A woman who can master silence gains control not only over her own energy but also over the energy of any room she walks into. Her silence demands respect because it shows she is not desperate for attention or validation. She knows her power lies in what she is building, not in what she is broadcasting. Together, energy and silence create a foundation for unshakable growth. By guarding your energy, you make sure you have the strength to keep moving forward, and by embracing silence, you ensure that your movement remains focused and unbothered. When you combine the two, you step into a level of power that very few people ever reach. It is a power built not on noise or popularity but on discipline and clarity. The woman who learns this lesson becomes unstoppable because she is fueled by her own energy and guided by her own silence. When you stop leaning on other people for strength, something inside you begins to shift. It is natural to want support, to want someone to lean on when the weight of life gets heavy. But the truth is that depending too much on others creates weakness. Every time you rely on someone else to validate you, to encourage you, or to push you forward, you are handing them control over your momentum. Self-reliance is the art of taking that control back. It is the decision to stand on your own 2 feet even when it feels shaky, because you know the strength you build in that struggle will outlast any temporary support another person could provide. When you stop waiting for someone else to carry you, you realize you had the power to carry yourself the whole time. Self-reliance is not about rejecting people or refusing help altogether. It is about knowing that even if everyone turned away, you would still move forward. That kind of mindset is rare, but it is what separates those who survive from those who thrive. Many people never discover how strong they truly are because they always have a safety net. They are afraid to be uncomfortable, afraid to face the unknown, so they cling to others for security. But the woman who chooses to stand alone learns a different lesson. She discovers that even when the safety net disappears, she can still balance on the wire. She learns that the muscles of resilience and determination only grow when you have no one to depend on but yourself. That is why self-reliance is power. Once you learn to generate strength from within, nobody can take it away from you. Think about the times in your life when you felt the lowest. In those moments, it probably was not the crowd that lifted you up. It was your own decision to keep going, your own inner dialogue that said get up, your own spirit that refused to quit. That is the essence of self-reliance. It is knowing that your foundation is inside you, not in the hands of anyone else. When you stop leaning on others, you remove the risk of collapse when they leave. You become solid, stable, and unbreakable because the strength you carry is self-made. That power commands respect because it is authentic. Nobody gave it to you and nobody can take it away. From that strength grows something even greater, and that is legacy. Legacy is not built in crowds or in constant company. It is built in the quiet moments when you are willing to walk alone. Every empire, every movement, every groundbreaking idea started with one person who chose to separate from the herd and trust their own path. Legacy is not the product of popularity, it is the product of persistence. When you are willing to endure solitude, to face doubt, to push forward without applause, you begin to create something that will outlast you. Solitude becomes the soil where your vision grows into a tree that others can sit under long after you are gone. Legacy is the long game. It is not about being recognized today. It is about building something that will be remembered tomorrow. The woman who can walk alone understands that her silence today will echo as strength for years to come. Every moment she spends grinding in solitude, every sacrifice she makes without recognition, every choice she makes to stay true to her vision while others chase trends becomes part of her legacy. The reason solitude is so important to legacy is because it allows you to build without compromise. When you are not constantly trying to fit into a circle, you are free to create something original. When you are not worried about pleasing everyone, you are free to remain authentic. And authenticity is what makes legacies last. Legacy is not about being followed in the moment, it is about being remembered in the future. The woman who can embrace solitude today may look isolated to outsiders, but she is preparing a blueprint that others will one day follow. Her willingness to stand alone becomes the very reason others choose to walk in her footsteps later. She becomes proof that strength in solitude is not only possible but powerful. What begins as one person walking alone eventually inspires many to rise. That is the essence of legacy. By embracing self-reliance, you build a foundation that cannot be shaken. By embracing solitude, you create the conditions for a legacy that cannot be erased. The combination of the two transforms struggle into story, pain into purpose, and isolation into influence. It is not the crowd that makes history. It is the individual who had the courage to move without one. That is why the woman with no friends is never truly alone. She is walking toward her legacy, and one day, the world will recognize the strength she built in silence. In the end, solitude is not something to fear, it is something to embrace. Walking alone does not mean you are lost, it means you are being prepared. Every moment you spend in your own company builds vision, filters out false friends, protects your energy, and teaches you the strength of silence. It teaches you to rely on yourself in a way that cannot be broken, and it positions you to leave behind a legacy that others will look up to long after you are gone. The path of solitude is the path of power, and the woman who can stand alone today becomes the leader others will follow tomorrow. Thank you for watching, thank you for your time, and thank you for continuing to walk this journey with me. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and keep building your strength in solitude.